Hey everyone, today I'm going to be talking about Idubbbz because he's made another video called I Miss the Old Idubbbz, which already judging by the title, it's him like addressing like the changing character that he's had over the years and how people are like reacted to it and why he felt like he had to change. But when I first watched the video, there were some points he made that were like, you could like understand why he wanted to change compared to like his old self, but there were the other parts where like it was a bit confusing as to like why he wanted to. He also discussed some certain decisions that I honestly don't think was a good idea because it just didn't make much sense. So I'm going to be talking about in this video.
For a while, I felt like if I changed my content over time, that people would see that as a reflection of who I am and what I value. But I'm starting to realize that that is a very weak and passive way to run my channel and live my life.
In the beginning of the video, he starts with him like looking to the side, pausing, and then talking, which makes him look like real sad and like depressed. But to be honest, it looks a bit like cheap and like dumb. In the first few seconds, he talks about like how he wanted to change the content he made as to like to change the perception of him so people wouldn't see him as like the old self. So rather than focusing on the type of content he wants to make, I feel like he's not being very resilient and he just keeps on crying online about how he hates his older content rather than trying to like make some new content to like change the perception of him, as he said.
If I'm gonna have the balls to go to Tana's fan meetup and say slurs at her and then make a video about how it's okay to say slurs, I think I should have the balls to make an apology video and take accountability for the mistakes I've made. So that's what this video is.
This is a trend I've noticed in his other videos apart from this one, where he acts like really guilty for what he's done, even though, to be honest, it's kind of his fault for like constantly bringing up the past. Because the only reason why this situation of people like missing the old Idubbbz is this big is because Idubbbz keeps like talking about it, like discussing it. Also, I just want to say now that in this video, he takes a lot of like long pauses that they feel so like cheap and like they're so fucking annoying. Like he's trying to reach that emotional side by always like pausing like
I've just always had this. I've realized that it's also...
And I know there's a repeated joke of him being a cock, but I will say, I did saw on Twitter, someone pointed out that he's sitting in the cock chair, like even with the lamp to his side and him sitting in the corner. And ever since I read that, I can't stop thinking about it whenever I watch this video.
Some of the videos I've made have been very... not edgy. I don't think they some of these videos were edgy. I think they were just outright cruel. I was morally grandstanding and acting as if I am any better than any of these people that I was making content cop videos on, and I'm not. I'm a human. I'm a real human who makes mistakes, and I make a different set of mistakes than the people I was making videos on, but it doesn't matter. I don't think anyone deserves that level of cruelty or hate.
This again is him just like fucking like hammering down how much he hates the past self to the point that it's like really fucking annoying to listen to. He also says one of the reasons why he regrets making like the content cut videos on people is because he believes like nobody deserves that amount of hate, which is a really weird like peaceful attitude to have, completely ignoring the reason why you made those like videos to point out like the shitty things those people did. Then he talks about his insecurities where like the reason why he kept on making that content for so long is because he was scared that if he was trying to like shift that type of content, people wouldn't watch him, which is why he kept on making it for so long. But then at some point he just had to stop because he just like didn't enjoy making anymore because like he felt shameful. And I feel like if he stopped trying to constantly reflect on his past, he could actually like enjoy the new stuff he makes. And then he compares how people like his old content more than his newer one. But again, I feel like if he was more persistent, at some point his audience would accept the newer stuff and accept him more.
I've profited off of this bigoted content for years, and I've made a successful career out of it, and that's not right. I think that this is only a step in the right direction, and I know that a lot more needs to be done to even approach a life that I would think would be like acceptable. I am running ads on this video, and any revenue generated from this video I'm going to match and donate to an organization that would have been particularly affected by the type of rhetoric that I've been spewing on this channel. I'd like to unlist the videos so that people can access them still for whatever, you know, purposes they might want to do that for.
Later on, he talks about like how he's profited from this, like what he calls bigoted content. And I will say, he did actually turn out to like unlist some of the videos, specifically like the content cop videos. And that's important because back when like this whole drama of like, oh, the Idubbbz has changed or whatever, and he openly discussed how much he hated like his older self, people pointed out, well, if you hate it so much, why don't you just like take down the videos, because you're still like profiting from them. So I can actually respect his decision to like take them down, because it would be like a bit like hypocritical to say like how much he hates it but still keep them up for like profit. This is a bit commendable, but just like I said in my last video, I feel like he sees this like charity events or acts of charity as like a redemption for him for like what he's done and how much like he wants to change. And to be honest, if he really wanted like that kind of redemption, I feel like the best thing he could do is make a new channel rather than staying on the one that's the most popular and that the one that became popular from the content that he hates. So then at least his new change of character would be more obvious and clear to people, rather than staying on the old one where most people got like the perception of him from his old content.
And for anyone who liked those videos, I want this video to be an example and a lesson for you. You know, you can like content, but you can also think that it's irresponsible and it's hurting other people. So just tap into that part of your brain that's saying like, oh, okay, it's probably not that important that this video stays online, because truthfully, I've seen it, I've experienced the content, but it's done a lot of damage. We can just let it go.
This part was really annoying to listen to because it feels like so condescending the way he like thinks of his fans, because in reality I feel like most of his like audience doesn't really act the way that he thinks they do. So in reality the reason why he has this perception of his fans being toxic is just from like a small vocal minority that acts that way, rather than like most of his audience like saying that, which is a very common problem online where most of your audience doesn't really like comment or discuss their opinions. So when the small minority does like strongly voice their opinion, it feels like much grander or bigger than it actually is, which is why most creators get like this fake perception of their fans. But you wouldn't think this problem would persist today, but it still does, and it happens to a lot of people, including Idubbbz, which I feel like he shouldn't, because he's been like creating content for so long.
I'm sorry to everyone that I made content cop videos on. I still don't like the majority of you, and that's fine, but I can recognize that you did not deserve the hate and harassment that I sent your way. I particularly want to apologize to Tana. Tana, I'm sorry. I should have never made that video. I harassed Tana in person and then harassed her online.
This was the biggest part of the video that stuck out to me, because it just felt so spineless. You like completely ignore the reason why you criticize those people and like the awful things they've done. And it's even weirder when you take in the fact that those videos came like such a long time ago, so it just feels weird to like apologize for them. And I feel like most people they criticized wouldn't even care at this point.
I have made content that I'm proud of over the years. It hasn't been as consistent as maybe I'd like it to have been, but you know, there is a lot of content that I think had a net positive on the world, and you know, I'm going to strive to continue on that trend. But again, I'm absolutely going to continue to make mistakes, but I want the mistakes to be a lot smaller and a lot less serious.
Again, when he said this, my mind like immediately went to the idea of him making more videos like this, just like adding more and more fuel to the fire, but just like rehashing the same points in this video. Now this part was weird because I understand the feeling of wanting to like change the perception of you on the internet, because you don't want to make your fans feel like you hate them or like you don't like them, which would be awful. But I feel like the example that Ian used is a bit of like a weird one. Of course, the most common thing Ian has been called is racist, but I don't actually remember him being described as like transphobic. So in reality I feel like the fan was more like being anxious rather than like them actually believing that he's like transphobic, especially because a lot of people get nervous when they meet creators they like at a convention. And he said this happened like a year ago, which I feel like his change of personality would have been like well known at this point. Also, I want to take this short moment to say like I don't feel like this is a one-side thing where like it's completely like Ian's fault, because I feel like his fans should like stop like always bringing up the fact like they miss the old Idubbbz, because it is a bit dumb to like not expect someone to change over time and not regret the stuff they did. But I do feel like Ian could have like handled it in a better way.
I have always thought that I was an empathetic person, because I thought, well, I get angry, I get sad, of course I got empathy. Seems easy, right? Empathy. I definitely have that. There were moments where like a dog would die in a film and I'd cry. So it's like, of course I have empathy. But I never did. I think only in these past couple of years have I gained the ability, empathy. And I'm very ashamed to admit that. It sounds really pathetic to say at the age of 32, I've acquired empathy.
This is such a weird statement to make because I definitely feel like he had emotions back when he used to make the content that he hates now. The way he describes how like he felt like he had empathy back then, but now looking back, he doesn't think so and he's just being edgy, it doesn't make a lot of sense. And the reason because it's like a lot of people that make content online, the way they act for other people is like completely like over exaggerated, like not realistic to the way they actually act. Because if you direct like your normal self, people wouldn't find that fun. So you have to like put on a character to make it more entertaining. And again, it's just so annoying to hear him talk about like he shouldn't have made those kind of videos, but like the reason why he did so is because those people he criticized did have like legitimate problems that he had to point out. Otherwise, like they would have like kept on doing it and become more popular.
I just like can't help myself but like feel for other people's pain and suffering now. I'm still not perfect. I think that is my empathy meter's only maybe like a quarter of the way filled up, potentially.
This is also like a weird statement to make because I feel like regardless of what argument you're making, it just sounds dumb by itself, especially for a man who's like in his 30s. And I get he was trying to make the point like he still has a lot to learn and grow, but I feel like at what point do you go where you've already apologized and taken down the videos that you regret for, and you've even apologized to people that you criticized? What else could you possibly do after that, after having like 1/4 of empathy? And so honestly, I feel like if he keeps on with this mindset that he still has a lot to do left to like redeem himself, he's never gonna really keep on making the content that he wants to make to change the perception of him, and he's just gonna be like stuck in this cycle of always talking about his past self.
I do want to create more regular content, and I don't want to just have the next 5 videos be apologies. So I have uploaded a squirrel video on my second channel if you want to watch that.
This again ties back to what I said earlier about him making a new channel, which although he did upload a new video, if you go back and check for like the videos he's uploaded on the second channel, he hasn't uploaded that many, and it's been like a long time ago, like a year ago. But then if you look at his current channel, you can definitely tell like he focused more time on that one rather than like the second one. I also like the part where he says that I don't want to upload like 5 more apology videos, but honestly I just feel like he will, because he's never like gonna give up on him always like talking about it.
I guess as one final thing, I just want to thank everyone who's given me the space and the compassion to grow as a person, because it's taken longer than it probably should have.
Now I do appreciate this part because there actually have been fans who have been very like opening to his change of character, and I can commend that because it's not adding more fuel to the argument of like, oh, I hate the new Idubbbz, and it's more allowing him more freedom to make the content that he wants to make. And then at the final part, like he sings and apologizes to his wife, where like I don't really have much to say because it just feels so like tired to talk about his wife when other people like have already done so. But then at the end I was just left wondering why he made this video, because everything he's talked about in this video he's already talked about previously, and he's already talked about his views on his older content. And to be honest, I think the only thing he added in this video that more people know about was his apology to the people he made content call videos on, which just felt like unnecessary, especially because it happened like 6 years ago, and I feel like most people he's apologized to wouldn't even care at this point, and they probably like forgot about it by now. I think him just simply like unlistening the videos would have been like enough of an apology to those people, and it would have made clear like how he feels about it, rather than just repeating the cycle over and over again, which just feels very tiring at this point, to be honest. And that's what I really have to say about the situation. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time. Bye.